Hello, welcome back to Seawolf's Den. I am Crafting Ron, otherwise known as Seawolf. I have something here that I'm going to work on, and I decided to just make a video of it. And this is kind of one part repair, one part rebuild, one part craft, full on new craft, who knows? Depends on where I go with it. This craft was something I made several years ago for a game, was challenged by a friend to create something out of foam that he had laying around. He unpacked a large computer monitor and brought the foam to me. And really, it was a lot more foam than this is. And I ended up just going to the garage and seeing, I didn't have any faith that I would come up with something. And so I just started cutting the foam with hot wire cutters until I finally saw something. I actually came up with two. And because this turned out to be such a big job, I just threw out the other one or used it for something else. I don't remember. But so I built this airship, and I used it in the game, and it's big. It's hard to store. I put it up on a shelf. I have another airship actually that I'm going to eventually show you because I have to finish it. It is almost done, but the paint job is just horrible, and I've got to kind of start all over again on some of it. So this one fell off the shelf, and pieces everywhere. I've used old model parts, Warhammer 40K parts, woodies, and everything, and so it took a good spill, and pieces went everywhere. And so now I'm going to rebuild it. Now I know this is not the best angle. I'll put more video in here just so you can see from all the angles. And what I did was I basically just glued on printouts of metal plating to make it look like it's metal, and I obviously got to work on fixing some of this. Before I glued down the metal printed paper, I smoothed out the foam and realized that they weren't symmetrical at all, and so I had to use spackle to smooth out the wings and give it a more uniform look. I liked how it turned out, but it did add a lot of weight to the piece. And this came off. This did not. I'm not really sure how that happens without damaging it. So this sits here. That's it. These are poles, and I made two. Not great, but all of this is inspired by stuff I saw on GM Scotty's. A guy built a really nice airship, much better than this one, and I used various techniques that he used to create, like the balloons. I saw some folks make balloons. These are basically 2-liter bottles that I cut the bottom and top off. I got some foam bowls and just some cardboard and created like these Zeppelin type balloons. That's that. These are woodies you buy in the store that basically look like wheels. All this is wood. I put foam core on top here to get the wood plating look, and I liked how that turned out. And that's part of the reason I'm trying to save it, because it really isn't that bad. But I've had a railing fall off. I'm going to find some more woodies to replace some of that. I'm going to put this back down, this back down. These are old model parts that I put together. This guy's broke. These are thimbles that you can buy in wood thimbles, more model parts and 40K parts. These were the engines to make it fly. I'm going to have to fix all of that. This one lost one. I have some replacements, so I have to replace that. These I made flower wiring. It's coming up, so I got to fix that. And those were going up to the balloons. Big thing, my favorite part of it was this one, this part. I call that Ooga Boom Now. It's a combination Mage Knight 40K miniature in there. And he's the gunner that sits in the front end of this, which you can't see. And this is why it doesn't sit flat. And maybe I need to come up with another way of doing this. Ooga Boom Now, he pretty much lives down below in this ship. And his sole purpose, what I told him in the game, was to shoot the gun. And so he sits here in his little pod with the gun, which I'm going to glue back in. And he just waits for somebody to say, "Ooga Boom Now," and he shoots. He's Ooga Boom Now, Ooga Boom Now. Yeah, there's various parts in there. I used model parts for the seats, old model parts for the seats, and the canopy was some giveaway. It was a giveaway to some, I don't remember where it was from, but I have another one of these that's. I'll see if I can find it and take a picture of it, put it in the video. But it was a giveaway. It contained candy. It was shaped like a light bulb, but it wasn't really a light bulb. So I'm going to figure out a way to remount that, and then maybe mount it better here. That's why I got to get landing gear. So let him sit here, then maybe put some landing gear down there, and that's the new part of it that I have to add. So give it landing gear so it'll just sit up on the shelf and never fall again. But the overall structure is still sound, and which is why I'm not going to throw it away yet, because I'd like to do a game with this again. It's fun, and it's kind of like an epic moment when you whip this out with bad guys on it. They're going to take the ship. And I'd like, because I have another one, I'd like to do like a airship battle as an encounter. I've got several guns that sit on the deck. I got places where I got to put skulls. This is one skull that fell. These are skull beads. Not as bad as I thought it was when it came down. The hard part is, getting these back and getting in the right place. That is my plan for this video, is to repair and rebuild this airship. All right, this is what I'm working on first for this airship that I had built and then crashed. These took the biggest hit because they were loose. I built these to rest on the wings and then rest on the deck. They were representing propellers that propel the airship as it floats. And I used a lot of old model parts. I used to build all kinds of models, mostly World War II models, World War II aircraft. So I had a lot of propellers broken off, and I kept them hoping I'd fix them one day, but then never did. So now I have propellers all over the place. These were the wing propellers, and they're built out of thimbles that you can buy at the hobby store. These are dividers for those tackle box containers you use for miniatures. I use for miniatures. I just did not need all these, so I have a bunch. I use these for paneling and stuff, and you paint them up, they look like something, look like metal, and that's what I intended. These are old model parts as well, and I put it on top of foam core and made it look like a metal texture, as you can see. And that's what both of these are, and then of course they got 40K bits all over the place to make it look kind of steampunky, which was the intent. It's kind of a cross between steampunk and a post-apocalyptic, which explains kind of the propellers. This is kind of like the main engine, and I built this out of a lot of 40K parts, 2 thimbles, and then the main part of it is a Transformers Happy Meal toy. It is just the chest of Megatron that I placed down, covered up like his hand. It kind of looked silly. I cut off his head and just used it to kind of give it a base, and then just added a ton of 40K bits to make it look, again, like an engine, kind of steampunky. Again, I made one propeller. I'm going to repaint it. Used a bead for the middle, two beads for the middle. This is going to fit on here like that, and a skewer, piece of wood, and another bead will fit in here. I'm going to paint all this up to kind of give it a dark look, a metallic look, and this will all glue in there, and we've got one propeller. I'm building another one. Got the bead ready. I'm gonna Dremel some points to add these propellers to give it a place to glue into, and they're all going to be at like 60-degree angles, which is what this is, and kind of give it a 3-point. Now this one was 4. I think this was a Mustang, which had 4 propellers. I'm going to cut these propellers off and put them at a different angle so that this one will have that same thing. And these are spares if I need them. Pick a starting point for the first blades. Alright, so that's our first propeller blade. Originally I had something else in there and it just didn't work out. Another thing that I need to work on once I get the propellers done is Ooga Bum Now. Ooga was his name, and what he says, all he says is Ooga Bum Now, waiting for the command to fire his guns. Sure, right there. Guns are good, more or less. 40K bits that I threw together. So now, his canopy was made from one of these. I have 2 of them. And the reason it's cloudy is because I used acetone to get rid of that logoing. Sitting here playing with it, I inadvertently broke Ooga Bum Now out. 40K arms. He used to be a rider of Mage Knight creature, and the seat is an old model part. The opportunity I have, I may redo it. Now, this still got scratched because I take a sticker off. But if I can figure out a way to either cover that up or get it off without making this so cloudy, I will, and that way we can see it better. So, given the opportunity, I think I'm going to redo this part of the project. Like I said, this used to contain like promotion candy and that was the theme, I guess. So I got to figure out either a way I'll paint over it, maybe I'll just paint over it. I'll just have to come up with a different design. All right, so I'm going to use my little cutting board. I've always looked at this and wondered how I'd use it, and this is one of those things. If you want a propeller, you've got your one propeller this way, and what you want is to come off 120 degrees off there. That's just 30. It's 90-30 degrees off there, and the other one will do the same somewhere like that or something like that. I'll measure that in a minute. So this one will be here off that line. I'm going to mark centered. Then flip it over. Hopefully that'll be close enough. Of course, this will get painted. Propellers can be anything. I just so happen to get propellers from something that looks like propellers. But you can just use Woody's. Right after was some consternation, some difficulties, I got it to glue. I literally had to sit here and just twirl it. Good enough. It's not perfect, but it's close. Post-apocalyptic look to it, and that was my intent. The airship, I wanted it to look kind of cobbled together and not manufactured. And I feel like that's the look I'm getting. I'm letting it glue. So that's the two propellers. And they look pretty good, I think. Better than what I've had. Okay, so that's those propellers. And we'll try this. If it doesn't work, I'll have the backup. We're going to change this to 90-degree angled propellers to 120. That'll work. I'll have to make a new stem port. So those propellers are done. I had to do some repairs on these. Some of the tanks fell out, and I had to repaint portions of it because I never really put a layer of protectant over it. So I'm going to do some repainting, some sort of dry brushing on these things soon. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with them. We'll get those together, and then we will move on to Ooga Boom now. Give him a new home. I do like this. Problem is, it sticks out. It sticks out underneath and makes it difficult for it to lay flat. So it's either I do the same thing and figure out a way to do landing gear, or figure out a way to make this flat. And then the guns used to hang out like this. The guns used to hang out like this, and that more times than not it just broke. So I'm gonna hang them like this next time, like they're at rest. Something to think about. I may have a joint that I can build in there and then let it go up and down. We'll see. I'll play around with some extra stuff I might have laying around. All right, here's several things I've been working on. Primed the propellers, and that one came out okay. Well, of course, that one is good. Well, that's just primed, and I'm gonna paint the rest of it, make it look like a classic World War II propeller with yellow tips and stuff like that, just to be fun. I still got to do a little bit of work on those for the paint job or repaint job. For Ooga Boom now, I've got his new canopy. Used the bandsaw this time. The old one was done using it. I didn't have the bandsaw at the time, so I used a Dremel, and you can see that it's not as finely cut as this one is. I think this is a better cut. Now, I tapered that off intentionally. I may not do that in this one. I have to redo the mount area. I have decided, one of the things, the reason this, like I said, the reason this one's so cloudy is because I used acetone to remove that, and it worked, but it just ruined everything inside. So, and I tried to clean it out and it made it even worse. So I won't be doing that. So what I'll probably be doing is just painting it over or putting something there. I like the idea of the window for the guns to hang out, so I'll probably do that again. And he will fit down inside here, just like that. But we'll be able to see him better than the old way. That was my major failure on this one the first time. But as you can see also that the hole is not even all that centered, so I may take more care to try to center it. Another thing I want to do, and I'll probably do it now that I left this for me, is I'm going to mount it better and have it so I can pull it out and put it back in rather than glue it just in. So I'll probably put something wood here to stick inside, because that is foam. All that is foam. So that's next. Another thing I worked on that I made later in the process was this, I don't know what you call it, a reactor. First I took a typical little tea light. It still works, it's kind of neat, and built a little box around it. Used a 40K bit to add some detail. It was too big for the little box, so I added a little wood piece to make it long enough for the 40K bit, and then put gears around it and made it look like a reactor. And this piece came from a Skylander Giant, so it's actually his bottom half that I cut out. It was a Skylander Giant's Happy Meal toy. I liked it. Liked how this looked. I got to repaint it because cleaning it up. I cleaned up that hole so that the light is more visible, and you really probably can't see it. But so I'll repaint this, repaint these. So we're gonna get into some painting in a minute, but these are ready to go. So that's where we're at with everything at this point. I still have the netting to repair, and I've got the netting that I still need to fix. And these were my first attempts, and I really am tempted to do them over again. I think I still have wiring. I still have the tape. Let me take them apart and start them all over again. Really, that's probably the safest bet. Yeah. I'll do one at a time. I'm gonna leave one together so to remember how this was done. This is the worst part of this whole craft, but also really what brings it together. And all this is flower wiring and this tape that you can buy that wraps around it. It's just a wrapping tape that makes it look like a stem. And for purposes, it makes it look like rope. And then at equal intervals, you put in these poles, but it's a way to hold up and wait for characters to climb up onto the balloons, etc. So from the railing. All right, so that's where we're at. Try to find the original video for these, and I'll probably post it in comics. Anyway, here are all the guns that I created with some woodies and some washers. These guns were 40K guns, and they were sitting on the deck loose, and they broke. So I'm gonna replace those. This has to be redone. Kind of a compass that I made out of steampunk parts that I got from the Halloween store. As you can see, I found another Megatron to show you what it looked like before I got to it, before I put 40K on it. But that lays underneath all that 40K stuff. These are his heads, and my intention, yeah, oversized heads. Kids meal toy, what do you want? What it is, it actually folds up inside there. But I'm going to use these for something else, and that's going to be another project. But I may use this again for something similar. Secondly, we also have the wiring. See, now this is not the same wiring. We have wiring outside that's more like this. And this is a lot thinner, which is probably what I should have used. Definitely use that and see if I can make it better. I'll need to repaint these, so either that or use a different pole. I think if I use a smaller wire and the same poles, it'll look a little bit better. All right, well, I started work on the new ropes. And this is how it's done. This is how I learned from the video. This is from a craft store. I don't know what it's called. I'll look it up when I get a chance. It's basically floral tape and floral wiring. The intent of this tape is to really kind of make it look like a stem for a flower. And so you wrap it up, and it's not sticky. It is waxy. So I'm just slowly but surely going down and squishing it against the stem or the wire and twisting it as I go along. And as you wrap it with your fingers, the warmth of your fingers kind of warms up the wax and gets it to adhere to the wire in a kind of organic way. And in the end, it does kind of look like a stem, but it also, for our purposes, looks like old rope. Okay, it tends to come off while you're doing it, so you have to go back over it to kind of twist it. And what I'll do now is what I didn't do before, is use a heat gun on it. All right, we'll see if this works. All right, yeah, it definitely liquefied the wax. You can see it come up. And what that does is when it cools back down, it solidifies the shape better. That's pretty good, I think. All right, this is a finished product. I did a little bit more than I normally, or a little bit more than I did on the last one. I got it covered in a matte varnish to kind of hold everything down. I also did some super glue in between, and then did a little more painting to make it look legit. So this is how I did it. So you start at the top, and I'm kind of just generally doing the same thing, the same spacing. At the very top, you start with a short one. You loop it over once. Then you feed it through, kind of like stitching. Feed it through the other end, and it wraps around the back like that. Now, you gotta do that 4 times on each piece. It's difficult to get everything tight without messing up the wax paper that's around the wiring. So, and it's also hard to keep them on especially this small one. So I use needle nose pliers to make it tight as I can. More spacing between each. As you can see on this one, they're very close together, so okay, further work. The ropes have been done. The rope ladders finished. I have worked on and all but finished the propellers, the big ones and the little one. Do a little more dry brush on some of these. Now, my enhancement to it is more Final Faction parts. I saw these and I thought about placing these right here, like as an enhancement to the engine, and I think I will. It's going to take some painting. I want 2 there and 2 there, maybe something off of here, though those are weapons, but they look kind of like fins. I think that would look cool. So got that, thanks to Final Faction. My second Final Faction enhancement is for the gun. It will allow it to be a turret. I'll drill a hole just big enough for this. This is a Final Faction part. I'll drill down into it, let that sit, and this will sit. I don't have the old one cut yet, or the new one cut yet. this will sit inside the cockpit like that, just glue it straight to it, and then it'll just hang out like that. Then at least be able to turn. I still do have to cut that hole. That's one thing I have to do, and still not really sure. That's going to have to be Dremeled because I know no other way of cutting that. So that's next. So that's more enhancements plus repairs. Before I even get any further, I'm going to take these and wash them and prime them, because priming them on here is not really feasible, and I want to make sure that the prime sticks, so washing them is important. So okay, so we're back with the engines, propellers, whatever you want to call them, and I spray painted them with kind of a satin paint, spray paint to be quick and dirty about it, but I may do a dry brush over top of them. Got some places I need to fix anyway. But I really like, especially that one. That just looks cool. That's probably more decorative than actual functional, but I can see these two parts being functional. So I'm happy with that. So this is definitely turning into one part repair, one part enhance, recraft, and I'm doing Ooga Boom Now's canopy. So original and new. I cut it differently. I will be painting it similar to that, maybe a little bit more. I obviously tried to glue, I don't know if you can see that, all the glare, but I tried to glue this in and it just didn't work. So what I'm going to do right now is my trusty hot pin trick this way. And try to get that pin straight through, because glue was not enough. And what I'm going to do is going to paint that over so it's not so ugly. Paint this entire circle, paint around the opening like I did the old one, and give it a little frame to it, and then also paint over the words. Got my trusty candle lit, so I take a hot pin and stick it through. The catch was that I'm putting it through two different types of plastic. That hard clear plastic was a little bit of a challenge, so I ended up having to do it twice and getting it completely through. All right, that's pretty good. I've got it in there. Until next time. All right, we've moved to a larger table because we've got the smaller bits that broke. I've got those fixed. I've still got parts of this to fix. The larger scheme of things. We have Ooga Boom now, and he's going to fit fine there. But before I do any of that, got to get the landing gear on there. So that's something I didn't plan on last time. And I've got to repair these. So I'm going to hot glue these down relatively close to each other, or close to what are symmetrical is really what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to glue those down, and we'll start getting those out. Put a lot of thought into maybe changing how the balloons are mounted or something. That's like my least aesthetically pleasing look to it. I don't see an easier way. One thought was to put it underneath the wings and just take these off completely and have it rest, but that didn't make any sense to me physically. So what we're going to do, and while I repair it, I'll just kind of talk about how this got made. I took foam that kind of came together. If you were to pull up, this part's foam core, and you were to pull that up, underneath is a complex array of that packing foam that's still left, and there was sort of some room left over, but not enough to really justify making these removable. And so I put foam core on top, foam core on the bottom to cover up the mess. These are just woodies, and I bought these tops from the hobby store, and these are thumbtacks. I think I've already said that before. Now, this is the area that got broke off the worst. So what we're going to do, try to use super glue the last time I did this, and it just didn't work out really well. So we're just going to use Gorilla Glue, nail this down. But I really liked how the thumbtack look came out, and that was from somebody else's idea on the Crafters Guild Facebook group started by DM Scotty and all his friends. The craft that inspired me to build this, and it was stunning. It was stunning. And I'll be honest with you, mine is, I've already said this too, I know, mine is nowhere near the look of his. We're going to fix the skull. There's only one missing skull, which is shocking to me, considering just how hard this hit the ground. Fell right off the shelf and just made a mess. And every one of these other ones stayed, which is amazing. So all that's glued down. I glued the ladder back. The one thing I had here was, this is kind of an engine that, you know, you have to destroy or something. I made it a point of interest, but then there's no real place to put it. So it was poorly planned. Another thing I had were these guns. And they busted apart like crazy, but they were intentionally loose because I could move them around. So what we'll do is glue those down, and these are woodies, pieces of wood, sticks. I got to repaint some of these, and beads to give them kind of a mount. And these are 40K Gatling looking guns. Like I said, I wanted it to be a post-apocalyptic. It was a post-apocalyptic game. That Titan's Grave setting that I just injected this plot line. It was kind of a subplot to the overall campaign that was out. Okay, so there's our navigator's station, which again didn't have any place to put it, but I guess we could put one on one side, one on the other, and then it's sort of balanced. But it's coming back together. Like I said, I've got to get the landing gear somehow, which I have no idea. I have a couple of ideas. Okay. So now we've got guns finished. Here I decided to add a few more skull beads. Now, hot glue for this. Okay, so my first attempt at getting this down was wrong. Got it too close to this side, and now I've got a tore up part. So I've got to reprint out some of these. I may still have them. I may still have some. And I'm going to get some Elmer's glue and water and maybe just nail this down a little bit more. It doesn't have to be the same because it'll even look even more post-apocalyptic. Alright, I've done further work. It's taken a little bit of time to do this because I've got so many distractions going on in real life. This is what I decided on for kind of a landing gear. I went to the hobby store. And what I did was I bought some of these woodies. These are tread tires, tread wheels that you can buy at the hobby store. And I lost the bag for these, but kind of decorative. I don't know what you would call them. They usually go like that. But what I did is I just took them, glued the top part of this thing into the wheel. And these came in a 3-pack, the top part, the decorative thing. These came in a 3-pack, and that's all I need. One up through each of the wings, and then one near the front. Kind of a close-knit pattern. Hopefully they'll hold it up. So all I did was just take some Gorilla Glue. It does leak out the bottom, so you don't want to put it on something you don't want to get glue on. And these will get painted. And then I take a clamp, try to center it, and kind of eyeball it to a perpendicular position. It doesn't have to be exact, but be nice, be close. Alright, that'll hold that and glue it. That's what I did with those two. I have a plan for Uga. I'm going to cut these short. Got to paint these. I'm going to paint these the same time I paint the landing gear. And these skewers, I'm going to cut them shorter, but they'll hold them up. I'll just paint them black, glue them in this way, and they'll be shorter, but I'm going to leave the point, and then I'm just going to dig them into the foam that is the front end to hold it up and allow it to pull in and out. So that's that. I printed some, I found the exact file for these things. I think it's the same one. It's close. I need to repair this part, the front end of the wing. That's I think where it landed. So I'm going to put extras over this with some glue. There are other places I've got to repair that are kind of coming up, so I'm going to probably do a lot of gluing. Oh, another thing is when I put the new Oga Boom Now in there, right where I put them, there's some gapping, so I'm going to put more of the new print out. So this will go on the bottom. We'll have some landing gear by the time you see the next phase. This will get spray painted black and painted gray. And we'll get these painted black and mount them, cut them short, which I probably could do. Like, I've already got holes in them, and maybe that's the best way to do it, is get them in the holes and then cut them and then glue Uga in there. I got them all jammed in there, so I could probably just guesstimate how far they need to go. So I've got them in the holes, or in the foam, and I'm going to try to just guesstimate how much I need. Wow, look at that. Really, all I gotta do is paint it and then mount it like that. The tension that these are holding will keep it in there, but I'm still gonna use glue because eventually that's gonna give way. But I think that's working. It fits better down there. Kind of liking that. I got it mounted, and I may hand paint those black so that I don't have to take them out, and I'll just glue them on there. That worked for me better than I thought it would. Okay, so that's it. All right, we're finishing up the Airship project, and I got Uga Boom Now attached and ended up scratching off some of the paint I put on there, so I'm gonna patch it up here. So I'm going to take the landing gear. This is my next step because I'm having trouble, because now that the cockpit Uga Boom Now and the gun is all on, it's getting hit every time I put it down, so I've got to have landing gear. So I'm going to place one here, and I've measured it out based on where I'm going to store this, and on a shelf. It's 12 inches, so and it should be roughly symmetrical. Here, that looks good. I'm not worried about it going through. We'll try to avoid that. All right. So I'm going to have to drill, because I don't remember what's under there. I'll try first the hot foam knife that I have, and if it doesn't work, we'll go from there. All right, we're back with, I have one, I don't know where I remember what this is. I think this is the Hot Foam Factory version, which has worked for me in the past. I have some spares, and I got this off Amazon, and it's a multi-attachment version, and I broke all the other attachments except for this. So we're going to try to there we go. That's what I was looking for. Don't know what this, oh, it worked. Boom. And it didn't come through. It's underneath the balloon stands, so not too bad. There we go. Just don't fall out. That's pretty dang good. That's pretty dang good. Finally got some landing gear for this bad boy. All right, the last thing I'm gonna do, now that it's on landing gear, is we're gonna take this and some water and make some patches. I believe I may have to put something on the back. Depends on how this holds up. It may be too back heavy, and then we're gonna have to come up with a solution, a better solution for. Okay, there you go. Without the rigging. And we can put the propellers on. they justify placing that engine on the front. I put that back there. It's definitely, we discovered a flaw in my landing gear plan. I'm going to have a third one in the back, or a fourth one. A fourth one in the back, or some weight on the front. I think I know how I can put weight on the front. Actually, that may be more of an option. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these woody tires and I'm going to put a bunch washers and place them inside there and give it a little bit of weight on the front and glue them down here underneath. And it'll look like a feature, but at the same time, it has a function. So that's my plan to fix the problem I have discovered. All right, this is the final product. I'm not too happy about these. I think I printed the originals on laser printer. The new patches are printed on inkjet, so they ended up kind of fading when I put the water and glue on there. I did put some weight on the front. This still wasn't enough, and so I jury-rigged a fourth landing gear to hold it up in the back. So I believe that's a final product right there. Going back up on the shelf until I use it again.
So until next time, seek the wolf in thyself.